Oh yes, it is Nick Shell, the founder and host of the Brotherhood of the Hair Loss. I tell you, these comments just keep growing, so I have to keep reading them. From the video I recently made, rosemary oil for hair loss 1.5 months later, someone who goes by the name of Simply the Best says this, quote, "Just look at the rock, man. Anyone who's not fat with a nice skull and not super white skin can pull it off," end quote. So in such simple words, which I think we could agree to the outside world on maybe Twitter, for example, we couldn't say that, but here on these videos, we're the only ones watching these, and I think we can talk about this openly. I think you make some good points. I mean, I think that's an important question to ask ourselves is who can pull off the shaved head or the buzz cut look as a way to deal with hair loss? Who can pull that off? How do we know when it works and how do we know it doesn't? And it's not an exact science, but I think very simply, as his name Simply the Best puts, I think he makes some good points. I mean, he talks about not being fat. Well, I regularly talk about the importance of being in shape, eating right, that a lot of what makes it work is you being in shape. Whether it's muscular and be working out or you're lean and you take care of yourself, that's something I always talk about. So I easily agree with that has to do. I mean, because otherwise, if you're overweight and you have a shaved head, your head's going to be bigger and you're going to look more like Butterbean, that UFC fighter or something. But what makes it look good and attractive and masculine is, being in shape and looking healthy and making that work for you. So, I mean, that makes sense. He talks about having a nice skull, which that can be debatable because what exactly how do you know a nice skull? You just have to see it to know that that'll work. I mean, if you can help me out on knowing that'd be good. I'd like to know more about what is the right head shape for looking good with a shaved head. And then lastly, he talks about not having super white skin, which makes sense because I think I've addressed before that noticeably men of darker pigment skin tend to easily look really good with shaved heads. I mean, he's mentioned The Rock here. I mean, I always forget what The Rock's ethnicity is, but whether he's actually Hawaiian or Samoan or whether he's African American, whatever he is, he's obviously got some darker genes in there, and it doesn't really even matter what it is. But the fact is, and then of course, people of Latino background, I often see them with shaved head, and it's like, man, it just works. You don't question it. It looks good as long as if you're in shape. And especially things are in your favor if you have a darker skin, tint to your skin is what I'm trying to say, which, I have a little bit, so that helps as well. So, I mean, it's interesting because, again, I know that these could, in theory, be controversial, but I think there's a lot of truth in what's being said here. And I wonder if there's anything to build on, too. Like, maybe if I call this video something to the effect of ways to know you'll look good with a shaved head. I don't know that I've made a video like that, and I think this is a good place to start, just in an honest conversation. So again, what he's presenting, some easy ways, is first of all you being in shape, or at least not being overweight, because I think that could actually have a negative effect if you're trying to because for me it has to do with masculinity, and I know that masculinity has a lot to do with your perception of it. I understand that. For me, masculinity has a lot to do with being healthy. And so someone who is not overweight, someone who is in control of their lifestyle and in control of their eating habits and in control of their exercise, that's masculine to me. So that's important to me as far as my perception of masculinity. The nice skull thing, though, you can't have any control over that. You can about being in shape, but you can't control your skull shape. So, I mean, and I know certain guys have scars on their head and stuff like that. So, I mean, that's the one you definitely can't control. And just like you can't really control your skin tone. I mean, if you are very fair-skinned, I guess you could get outside and, get more sun. What's funny is my dad, you've seen him in the videos, it looks like he's got pretty dark skin, and he does. But growing up, he had much lighter skin. But later in his life, he's been outside so much, working out, doing stuff in the yard, that he's pretty dark at this point. So I've personally seen his skin tone get darker as he's just outside more. But anyway, this I think is just more of a starting point. I don't really want to lead the conversation with this. I just want to launch it from here, thanks to Simply the Best's comment here. I think this is worth exploring a little bit more. I'm all ears. I'm open-minded to learning more about this, because I think it would be good for us to have a discussion on knowing, out of over 1,000 subscribers, there's got to be some people in here thinking, okay, I want to shave my head. I'm not quite brave enough to yet, but would it even work on me? Well, maybe we could kind of map this out a little bit more in addition to what's been said here. And I don't know, maybe you don't even agree with Simply the Best. I do, but maybe you don't. Maybe you think that one of these things doesn't apply. But I don't know. As far as looking good, looking cool, looking masculine, especially the part about being in shape, has a lot to do with it. For me, definitely. But again, that's the part you can actually control. So, tell me what you think. Let's see if there's something to be explored here, something we can learn. This is all about the collaboration. Most of the time, I'm not actually teaching you anything. I'm just hosting a conversation based on comments, and this is the epitome of one of those videos. So, who knew that my Valentine's Day's videos would be all about shaving your head and getting buzz cuts? But that's just how it worked. So, I'm very curious. Let's see what we can come up with. Is there more ways to know that you'll look good with a buzz cut or shaved head if you are losing your hair? How can you know going into it, aside from what we've already learned today? What else can we learn from this? Teach me.